Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Sethum and welcome back to another guide for Conan Exiles. In this video, I am going to be showcasing and covering the Fragments of Power, as well as how to get them and how to solo one of the bosses as well, which does drop the Fragments of Power. So if you folks enjoy this video, please do not forget to support me and the channel by hitting that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already for more similar content from myself. And if you have just subscribed, don't forget to hit that bell icon so that you get notified when I upload new videos. And why not check out some of my other videos and guides here on this channel. Who knows, you might just enjoy them. Also, for those interested, you can always find me on the Sethopia Discord. Links to this, of course, you can find down below in the video's description, as well as in a pinned comment from myself. So the Fragments of Power have recently been added to the game with the revamp of the unnamed city. Now obviously in the unnamed cities there is, I think, a total of 9 bosses to my knowledge, possibly 10 if you count one of the dragons that is on the outskirts. It depends how you want to look at it. Anyways, these bosses will drop the Fragments of Power once you have killed them. And these Fragments of Power, of course, have several uses. Now, I am in the Archivist room where you learn the map, and this is what the Fragments of Power looks like. So if you go to feats, you have a certain amount of feats points that you can use. As you can see, I've got a ridiculous amount already and still 102 to spend. So the feat points that I've got is through the use of the Fragments of Power. If you use one Fragment of Power, you will get 10 additional feat points on top, and if you respec, you won't lose those points. You get to keep them. Also, you can use the Fragments of Power to trade them in for scrolls. That will teach you new feats. So, for example, the venom infused items will, of course, be one of the things that you can learn. I'm trying to have a look through all of these and pick out. So these 3 are possible. You can learn the throne. You can learn the statues over here that you can learn. It does require the skull, of course. You can, of course, also learn the kiln, which is just over here, which is a better version of the furnace. You can get some new unique weapons and stuff like this over here. Now, what you get in exchange for the Fragment of Power is quite random. So you might need to go through quite a few. However, obtaining these Fragments of Power, well, you can obtain them in several ways, and I will go over that in a bit. Now, if you use one of these Fragments of Power from your inventory, notice I've got 102 skill points. So I'm going to use one of these up. I've obtained some more skill points. That is a total of 112 unspent points. So it gets me 10 skill points per Fragment of Power. Not a bad deal. That also allows you to unlock pretty much every little feat possible. So skill points, I meant feat points, so I'm going to correct myself. It does give you 10 feat points, and as you can see, once you max out your feat points, you can unlock absolutely everything in the game. Now, to me, this has its pros and cons. It does step away from having to have friends to craft things for you, but of course, also once you have unlocked the dismantling bench, you can, of course, break down the items that were crafted with the use of Fragments of Power. Now, the items that I showed you before do require Fragments of Power to be crafted, and that is specifically one. Or you can trade in the Fragments of Power from the shelf in exchange for scrolls, which will teach you the things that I've shown you before. So I picked out a couple of them to learn what the scroll has. You just click on it, use it. Simple as that. And obviously it is quite random what you will get, so you may need to go through quite a few of these Fragments of Power to get to be able to unlock pretty much everything that is available. Now, the Fragments of Power, as I said, can be obtained from bosses, and these are the locations of the bosses. So there is a total of 8, 9 if you count the dragon that spawns on the outer edge of the unnamed city. Now the ones with the swords, of course, those are the mini bosses, which has 3 to 5 thralls with them. There will be relic hunter treasure seekers, which is what I will be using for the next stage of this video, in which I'm going to show you how to take down one of the bosses. Now, as you can see with me, I have a relic hunter treasure seeker. Why you want one of these? Well, look at their HP for a start. It is ridiculous. Now, if you put heavy armor on them, and in this case I've got the flawless Hyborian armor with the HP and some decent weapons on it, you can use this both as a tank and a damage. Now the spear that you see there, that was obtained from one of the bosses that I farmed. I can't remember which boss dropped that, but that does replenish the thrall's health. I've given the NPC the choice of what it's going to use. So there are several bosses. I will be covering each boss individually and how to take them down. I've already done the red dragon, so let's go and do the Skeletal Serpent Man. This guy's pretty straightforward. Let's make it day so we can see what's going on for the moment. However, before I get to it, I'm just going to show you one of the locations that has the relic hunter treasure seekers, and so you know what to expect. So if you come from this angle right here, you'll have to fight through these guys. Nothing too complex, to be fairly honest. And to my right, you'll see 3 relic hunter treasure seekers and a mini boss. So what I would probably do is I would probably use snake arrows to kill off all of the treasure seekers that I do not want. Leave only one that I want, and then use a truncheon on it. Now do bear in mind, these things are pretty powerful, and so what I would do is 2 hits with a truncheon, then roll away, wait for an opening, 2 hits, roll away, and that would be the combo that I use. So this is what you can expect to find. Now also, all of these groups in the unnamed cities will have this chest, which for some odd reason does not seem to work for me, and in there you will find either gold or silver coins, gold or silver bars, and sometimes even gold or silver dust. So definitely want to be farming these guys. These guys, the mini bosses, are not tameable, so you cannot knock them out with a truncheon, but you do want to kill them because they drop something that's called the heart of a hero. Now, being in the unnamed city, there are areas that have corruption, and by consuming the heart of a hero, you will, of course, remove corruption. This is the boss that we're going to go for. It is the Skeletal Serpent Man. This guy is pretty easy. He does have a lunge that does bleed you, so you want to be careful for that. I am wearing medium armor, and so I don't want to be hit by him. He's right there, nothing too special about him. I'm going to be using my thrall to take him out. Whilst the fight is going down, I'm also going to be talking you through both the fight mechanics. I'm going to set it to noon. We don't want it to go dark. As well as how you can obtain the fragment of power. There are several ways of obtaining it, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, so I'm just making sure everything here is the way it should be. And so what I'm going to be doing with this guy, and what I recommend you do with pretty much any of the bosses, is have yourself one of these thralls put on the best heavy armor that you can get. You can get the Hyperborean heavy armor from a tier 4 armorer, but you don't necessarily have to have that. Any tier 4 flawless heavy armor will do. You want to give them as much armor as possible. For the moment, she's bugging out. She doesn't seem to find the weapons in her inventory, which is one of the things you can expect with these thralls. Alright, she's found a weapon. So I'm going to wait for her to pick him up and do damage to him enough to the point where of course he will focus on her. Then once that's happened, I will then of course end up fighting this guy from behind. I will let my thrall do the tanking stroke damage, so she'll do both of them, and she's using if I remember correctly, the ancient shield and ancient axe. So from this point forward, I am going to try and let her do most of the damage until the boss focuses on her. After he's focused armor, I will swap to a two-hander. I am using the Dragon Bone sword, which is very easy to obtain if you ask me. And I will do a combo of 3 to 4 hits, then roll away just in case he turns around. With regards to obtaining the fragments of power, these can be obtained in several ways. Throughout the unnamed cities, there are chests that you can find which will contain a fragment of power. You loot that chest, you get a fragment of power. The other way you can get that is if you are on a PvP server and kill another player that has one of those fragments of power in their inventory. You can then obviously loot it, or alternately, if you find an item that can be learned from the archivist. Remember, those items do require 1 fragment of power to be crafted. So if you have a dismantling bench, you can take it back to your base, dismantle it, and get the fragment of power that way. And obviously the last way, which is what I'm showing you right now, is by defeating the bosses. Each boss will drop generally a fragment of power. I've come across situations where they didn't actually drop a fragment of power. I'm not sure if that is a regular thing, but do bear that in mind. Generally, they do tend to drop a fragment of power. Also, bosses can drop some really nice weapons. Sword of Crom is one of the best weapons that you can find, and you will want to farm them for that. Now, the Sword of Crom, of course, is a sword that does, I think, 120 something damage. It also has a good armor penetration, and I'd probably suggest putting on a mod that increases the armor penetration of the weapon. It already does a ridiculous amount of damage. There is one catch with the weapon, and that is you use up all of your stamina after one swing. So definitely not a weapon you want to be using yourself. However, if you put it on a thrall, then that thrall will do a ridiculous amount of damage. So if my thrall were to have had that weapon, she would have probably taken down this boss easily. As a matter of fact, with that weapon, a thrall can pretty much solo any of the bosses or world bosses to speak. Now, do bear in mind, these world bosses, particularly the bosses here in the unnamed cities, I have a feeling that they were meant to be for groups of people. However, with a good thrall, you can take them down. Now, obviously, that will require you to work around the mechanics and get the thrall to pretty much tank it like you've seen me do in this video. And so you will also get other items in the loot when you do loot the bosses. You can get the legendary repair kit, which you can use on your legendary weapons, which you saw me pick up, and obviously fragments of power. There's no point in harvesting this guy, you just get stuff that you don't want. And so that is how you pretty much defeat this boss. As you saw, he is ridiculously easy. I was in no danger at any given point. I'm gonna enable the admin command because in the next phase I want to show you a location for one of the chests that does drop a fragment of power. Now, these chests are actually fairly small, and they are scattered throughout the unnamed city. It is possible that it may not necessarily be here because I did loot it actually before making this video, and I then realized I wanted to make the video, so that kind of sucks, but I will show you the location nonetheless. Also, there is this chest up here. You do get gold. Didn't want to do that. I am on the wrong side, so I did spawn on the wrong side. I'm going to have to use the admin commands to get around. So down there somewhere will be one of the locations with the relic hunter treasure seekers and the boss that'll spawn. It's not that down there though. It's on the other side, I'm guessing. I'm just getting my bearings here. So down there you will find one of the mini bosses, and I think 3, possibly 4 relic hunter treasure seekers. You'll see the chest that you loot the gold from, and right in line, so that's the chest right there. That chest that I'm looking at right there, that'll contain gold. Right here in this area is a chest that contains a fragment of power. So it's pretty much in line with that basically. So when you come up here, you should look down and should be able to see that chest. Now, as I said, I did pick it up before this video, which is why it's not here. So I think it's somewhere exactly here, if I'm not mistaken. It is quite in line with the chest that contains the gold down there. You do have to climb up for this one, and I believe one of the armored skeletons also has one of those chests spawned behind it. So those are two locations that has those. That is it for this video, folks. I do hope that you have enjoyed it and found the information in this video useful. If you have, please do not forget to support me and the channel by hitting that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already for more similar content from myself. And as I said, I will be making a individual guide for each of the bosses in the unnamed city on how to solo them. So do look forward to that. That is going to be a thing. And if you have just subscribed to the channel, why not check out some of my other videos and guides here on this channel? Who knows, you might just enjoy them. And of course, for those interested, you can always find me on the Sethtopia Discord. Links to this, of course, you can find down below in the video's description, as well as in a pinned comment from myself. Until next time, stay safe, folks.